Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Founder Series by TeamWave. And our today's guest is Andrei Zinkevich, who is the co-founder at FullFunnel.io. FullFunnel.io helps B2B companies by working with their sales and marketing managers on generating qualified sales opportunities from a list of target accounts, increase deal value, and shorten the sales cycle to hit their next revenue milestone. Thanks a lot for joining us, Andrei.
Thanks a lot for having me. Always a pleasure to join such a great podcast.
Yeah, thank you. And my first question would be, what is FullFunnel.io?
So FullFunnel.io is my consultancy company. We operate with B2B service-based and tech companies that have long and complex sales cycles. And as you mentioned, we use a mix of different strategies that are aligned with the way how customers buy in this complex B2B industries. The reason why we called our company FullFunnel.io is because our key, let's say, methodology is full funnel marketing, which actually focuses on the entire customer journey, on the entire customer life cycle, starting from the awareness when the, let's say, problem occurs, or even at the stage when customer doesn't know they have a problem or a challenge, but they realize something is not working on, and basically they start searching for different ways how to solve this particular challenge, not product related. And basically at this stage we start doing demand generation, and full funnel leads us through the entire journey until the expansion, until we have happy customers with who we can grow the business, who can generate us referrals, who can give us recommendations, agree to be a public case study, etc. So it's a marketing across the entire customer journey.
Oh, great, great. And when you talk about so marketing consultancy, there are many marketing consultancy, right? Marketing agencies. And how does FullFunnel.io set itself apart from those?
Yes, exactly. The key differentiator here is our niche expertise. So as I mentioned, we work only with a very narrow market, with a very narrow vertical. Basically, we serve two verticals: tech companies like enterprise SaaS, hardware, etc., and service-based companies like software development, let's say financial consulting or manufacturing consulting, etc. These high-ticket services, let's call it this way. And what unites these verticals, they all have long and complex sales cycles. Sales cycles are longer than, let's say, 8, 9, 10 months, etc. They deal with buying committee, so they usually negotiate with multiple people. And what else unites these companies? You can't just set up an ads in Google account, set up Facebook ads and passively wait for leads. So it doesn't work that way. It requires completely different skill set and alignment between marketing and sales around one, let's say, playbook that helps to generate these specific accounts. And that's why it's important to, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a mix of different tactics, and that's why it requires a little bit broader skill set. So you must be skilled at account-based marketing, at demand generation, etc. So you'll be able to actually grow these businesses. So this is a key differentiator. And as far as I know, not so many agencies or consultant firms are focusing on this particular segment.
Oh, okay. Initially, like when we talk about this company started at 2017, right? So at that time, how did you try to get the first traction of customers?
Okay, so I started basically. I had a local I started consultants on my local market, and I was serving local countries, so it wasn't like a global wide business like it is now. So I was blogging, let's say, since 2010, and I had some customers, that requested me to help them with penetrating to North American markets, to different European markets as well. So I had this positive case studies, references, etc. And in 2017, I decided to start, let's say, this global company. So I switched somehow, like, let's say, productized my services, hired a team, trained them, so they started to, let's say, they continued that business on a local market. While I was thinking about how to attract my first customers, the biggest benefit for me that I have had case studies, which of course simplifies, the, let's say, the launch of a new company and to get some traction. But again, you need to deal, with the situation that nobody knows you, and of course, in a global scale, it's a way harder to get traction than on a local market. So my first idea was like, what should be the lowest hanging fruit? How can I connect, with like-minded people? First of all, how can I connect with more B2B marketers across the globe? And how can I connect with different, let's call it the broader way, with different B2B founders? So I decided probably the easiest way would be creating a community, and I created a B2B marketers and founders community on Facebook. And basically what I was doing, I invited some of my connections to join this community, asked, initially I invested lots of efforts into that community. I was reaching out to people manually, asking about what content resonates with you, what topics would you like, to chat about in this community. Do you know anybody who might be interested in this community? So I was asking people, to invite their friends, colleagues, clients, etc. I was inviting these people, and next step I was thinking about, like, where my audience might be hanging out. So I made a list of different Facebook groups, and what I was doing, I was introducing myself, of course, not just coming as like a stranger, who joins the community and immediately pitches something. So I was engaging in the conversation, so people knew a little bit about me. And then I was saying, like, guys, I know this is like a broader, or let's say the topics for this yours community are broader, and I want to create a community which will be solely focused on B2B marketing. And basically I was, given some idea what exact topics I want to cover, like who would like to join, just if it was a web, like if moderators allowed me, to post a link, I posted a link to that community. If no, I just was simply asking, like, who is interested, leave a comment and I will PM you. And this is how we got initial members, and all rest is the history. So I was, routinely doing sharing content in that community, doing live sessions. I started my podcast, which is called the Full Funnel B2B Marketing Podcast, and I was doing live sessions so people from the community could jump in, ask my guests questions, etc. And this actually helped me to get this traction, the initial awareness and the first clients. So all the clients were coming, from this community and my newsletter. So that was another asset I was working on. So I started just an email newsletter without even having a website, And these were, like, let's say, two channels that helped to get this traction.
Oh, great. Actually, that is a very unique way, means like through Facebook community, you are trying to reach out to a lot of people. During this pandemic time, what were the changes that you noticed, like in the market, or how the industries reacted?
Yeah, okay, this is a good question, because, pandemic changed everything. I don't need to, I think we don't need to devote too much time, because there are lots of articles on all of these things. Basically, I want to share what I have noticed in the industry. Just to share with you, since the first lockdown, with my co-founder Vladimir Blagoevich, we ran a market research talking to almost 200 B2B companies with complex products. So we reached out to our customers, we reached out to several accelerators in Europe with who we collaborate, and basically we reached out to members of Revenue Genius community. And we have figured out some interesting facts. I think I will share just some key takeaways from it. So the takeaway number one is that canceled events and trade shows increased the focus on outbound activities, but what's important, that don't generate results. So our respondents stated that it's hard to get people to respond, amidst the flood of COVID-driven desperate marketing attempts by everybody. I recognize this quote done by one of our respondents. This is how he described these activities.
Yeah. They meant to say that the outbound marketing was not working for them?
Yes, so they told that it simply don't generate results because everybody, increased basically doubled down on outbound.
Okay.
So the takeaway number 2 was that the sales cycle length increased and buyers actually became more critical, started to involve more people, and respondents told that it takes longer, their buyers, it takes longer to decide. The takeaway number 3 is content blindness, which means that it's extremely hard to generate target traffic, not just a traffic, because you can pay Facebook or Google or LinkedIn or whatever and generate some traffic, but it's extremely hard to generate target traffic or motivate target accounts show up to the virtual events. And the reason why, because our respondents told there is an oversupply of webinars and online content, so that's why we call it content blindness. Next one is that marketing qualified lead cost significantly increased, and again, our respondents told that MQLs, marketing qualified leads, don't convert to sales opportunities. Basically, the conversion is miserable. And the last one, companies experience a high churn rate because of bad product adoption, because customers think about the solution as service as a fancy add-on, but not as a part of operational processes. So companies that were not able, to make a great product adoption experienced a high churn rate. So these are 5, let's say, takeaways from that survey. And regarding the challenges, if that might be interested, I have stats from it. So the number 1 challenge they stated is that the biggest challenge they have is alignment between marketing and sales. Next one is slow response to outreach campaigns. And the challenge number 3 was targeting the relevant decision makers. So basically, these are the challenges that pandemic actually produced. And these are, let's say, the negative outcomes. In terms of, but at the same time, we have noticed several trends. I think it makes sense to share some trends that we have seen. One of these trends is basically, from my point of view, is that 80-20, or so-called Pareto principle, becomes a dominant principle in marketing of complex products. And the reason why, because again, I have shared these challenges, and this is why it becomes critical to narrow down your position and narrow down your marketing message, narrow down your focus on 20% of verticals or market segments that generate 80% of revenue. This is critical. And last year, we have experienced 2 great, besides fullfunnel.io, we have experienced 2 great case studies with our customers. So one of them is drone management platform. And basically, because of differentiating themselves and narrowing down their focus, they were able to shorten the sales cycle and increase the average deal size 5 times. And it also helped them to get a new investment round. And another case comes from the, let's say, from the custom software development industry, or let's say service-based industry. So this was, let's say, a commodity provider provided one-size-fits-all custom software development service. And because of narrowing down their position and because of focusing on the best industry and reposition themselves to DevOps as a service to for growing startups who uses Kubernetes, if I'm correct, they were able, after like 6 months after this repositioning, 6 months after narrowing down this focus and running dedicated marketing campaigns to this particular market, they were able to grow monthly recurring revenue by 50%. So this is one of the key trends I see, this narrow positioning. There are some other trends, and I think it totally makes sense to mention that shift to revenue operations and full funnel marketing becomes inevitable. And what it means. First of all, it means that marketing, sales, and client success teams must be aligned around several things, like ideal customer profile, like qualification and disqualification criteria for account list building. So it prevents situation when sales start complaining, that marketing is generating low quality leads, or client success team don't work on a proper onboarding and don't do in-depth interviews that gives insights for sales, about the key initiatives of the customers. And so sales don't have this critical data, for deal expansion. Warm-up and activation campaigns. This is critical because sometimes, sales are prospecting some accounts and marketing is running some virtual event that is completely disaligned with the sales activity. So next one, content plan. I think that by default, content strategy, content planning belongs to marketing. And they rarely involve sales into content creation. But from my point of view, this is like the lowest hanging fruit for teams alignment, because if sales are involved in the content creation, it would be much more easier to involve sales into content distribution, which is critical. Our goal is to grab the attention of our target accounts with the content, correct? And that's why, this is the goal of the sales. And basically, if we create the content that resonates with the needs of target customers or prospects, if it answers their questions, etc., it would be much more easier for sales, to promote this content, to reach out to target accounts with this content and get this target traffic. And last one, engagement scoring. It's critical for leads hands-off. So marketing team doesn't send, like email subscribers or people who attended webinar or people who attended or people who downloaded some ebook, some sort of gated content to sales, because if person downloads ebook, it doesn't mean they have an intent to buy. They are curious about some information, but when they get a call, from sales team or some, let's say, pitch email, then they are just disappointed and they are wondering, why are these people reaching out to me, and this situation triggers the infamous marketing and sales war, when sales start complaining, about low quality leads, and marketing starts blaming sales that they don't know how to sell, etc. So this is critical. And as I mentioned, as a natural part of it, if teams are aligned around content strategy, sales becomes involved in demand generation. Basically, once we were doing, this research, we were asking sales leaders, if there is one thing marketing can help you with, what would you like this to be? And they told, we want marketing to make sure that our customers are aware about our product. And I was wondering, I was following up with the question, okay, so marketing can work on that part, but in terms of sales, can you do anything? And what is important for you? How would you like to be perceived, by your target accounts? And major part of them told, we want to be perceived as advisor, as a trusted advisor or expert, not just another sales rep. And this is why it becomes critical that sales should start working on their, let's say, personal brands. I don't like this word too much, but let's call it as as it's called. So they should work on their personal brands, they should work on this demand generation, they should create some content, and the lowest hanging fruit is LinkedIn, where they can start, connecting with target accounts, sharing this content, involve these target accounts in conversations, and this is probably the only one way how to do it. Just to give you some recent stats, I noticed a post by Casey Graham, who is CEO of Gravy Solutions, and he told that once he insisted, his sales team started to share content on LinkedIn and connect with target accounts. They noticed in 2 months, they noticed that 45% of sales calls were mentioning that they saw posts of sales team of Gravy on LinkedIn. So that's why I think this is the best social proof why sales should be involved in the demand generation, not only prospecting and lead generation activities. And as well, it becomes critical that sales would be involved in content distribution. This is actually the easiest way to deliver value. We all know that sales should, if you'll read any given post on B2B marketing and sales, I believe like in 90% of these blog articles, that would be one phrase saying something. You need to deliver value and you need to build a relationship with target accounts. Agree?
Yeah.
So the only one question which I always ask, how to practically deliver this value and build this relationship. So lots of people are talking about this, but not so many actually understand how to do it. Because, especially if you have a title like SDR, Business Development Manager, VP of Sales, or whatever, something sales related, people start, they have, like, let's say, they expect by default that the pitch is coming. At some point this person should be pitching me. So how to build this relationship, and basically content is the easiest way to do it. Like, to give you an example, when I was promoting a recent case study about ABM campaign that generated 300K in revenue, I was chatting with some of our prospects of, let's say it wasn't even prospects, so the company that fits our ideal customer profile. And we were chatting, I got acquainted with a person, and then I quickly, reviewed their website, what they are doing, and noticed that they are doing IT security and consultant services. And just to give you a practical, probably tip for your audience, I was reaching out and saying something like, by the way, I noticed that your company provides IT security and consultant services. I recently published a case study, how did I help a custom software development company to generate 300K in sales pipeline from one campaign. And I was sharing not just the link to the blog post, but I was sharing a link to my LinkedIn post. So I didn't take them out from the platform, and it wasn't, it didn't sound salesly, So they could check a short video on this topic. And then I was following up like one day later, like, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them and let me know if you would like to read the entire case study. And the person was replying to me like, yeah, I'm interested. And that's it, this is how you start. You can start to involve your target accounts into content consumption, and then you have multiple ways how to proceed. You can ask like, what was the most valuable part? Would you like to jump into a call and discuss, how to implement the same ideas for your company? And this is how you generate sales opportunities from content distribution. Lots of marketers can't explain this process to sales, and that's why I told in the beginning this playbook, from content creation to opportunity generation should be universal for companies. Some other trends. So sales should leverage intent data and social selling. As an example of social selling, we can take a previous example, how to generate these meetings. When it comes to sales, intent data, you can install software like Lead Feeder, Albatross, Happier Leads that tracks, actually that provides IP identification data. So by IP, they can identify what companies visited your website, what specific pages did they visit, how much time did they spend, etc. So you'll know what, you can immediately identify companies that fit your ideal customer profile and add to one of your campaigns. And again, if you have these playbooks, sales can start to work on connection and activation parts. You can use LinkedIn data, like LinkedIn professional account gives you data who exactly visited your
Andrei,
profile.
yeah. Andrei, 1 second, I would like to interrupt you here. So my question was that, like, is LinkedIn one of the best? Because I heard that you were mentioning again and again LinkedIn, right? So is LinkedIn one of the best platforms where B2B can like share their content or talk more about their content and get their leads?
So it's not limited only to LinkedIn. Probably so far LinkedIn is the best by default for B2B companies. But what I suggest to do, you should always host in-depth interviews with your customers and simply ask, like, what social media do you use regularly? What, let's say, what forums, communities you are an active member of? And you can identify, maybe, some people can say, I'm like an active member of Revenue Genius community on Slack. And you understand that they might not be hanging out on LinkedIn. And quite often, I don't want to say that LinkedIn is, let's say, a silver bullet for everybody. So in some particular, just to give you a more precise example, for this drone management company I mentioned, we have identified a, let's say, old-fashioned forum where their target audience hangs out, and this becomes your platform where you should be an active member. So the only way how to figure it out is just to talk to your customers. But let's say by default, LinkedIn is the best one for B2B organizations.
Okay. And as many entrepreneurs would be watching here, so I also saw that you are the founder of Advise and the co-founder of ROI Plan, right? Two companies.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I was very curious to know, how do you manage all three of these companies? Like, is there, so how do you handle it?
Okay, so Advice, this is the first company I mentioned in the beginning. I started so this is a local inbound marketing agency. I was like, when I started my entrepreneurship journey, when I switched off from my corporate day job, I had two projects. Basically, I was doing consultancy, like as a freelance consultant or whatever we'll call it. And I was like creating in parallel a new project which was called CEO Club, but in local language, of course. So I had a co-founder who worked with me on that project, and at one point we even compete with Forbes on the local market. So we had the same traffic, and we were basically selling native ads, but this is another story. So just to make things short, when I decided in 2017 to launch a Get Leader, so that was a previous name of fullfunnel.io. So when I decided to launch a Get Leader, I sold my share in that CEO Club project. And I was thinking, like, okay, I had like around 20K subscribers to my newsletter, for this local market. And I was thinking what we can do, like how we can serve these customers in the best possible way without me. So during this CEO Club, I have identified that companies, they are not buying ads. They want to get opportunities. They want to get some leads. And basically what we were doing native ads for them, like done for you native advertisement on our platform. So we were writing in-depth case studies. I have hired like a couple of good copywriters, and then we were promoting these articles in different communities. We were running some ads to them, etc., etc. So I decided probably if we had lots of positive case studies. So I decided it can become our natural service, as well with providing, let's say, broader marketing advice related to B2B marketing companies. So I just, when I sold my share, I took all of my team to Advise, and this is how they are operating without me. So basically, I'm just, let's say, a founder of this company, but I have CEO who manages all the processes. So it doesn't take. So let's say I naturally became an advisor to that company, a founder and advisor to that company. So as for the fullfunnel.io, it takes my major part, and I have ROI Plan. So this is a SaaS product. It's a marketing planning platform. And so far we have created MVP. So it didn't take, basically, we started to work on it in January last year. So it's like 1 year project. And what we was doing, so I started it as a side project because I understood, Google Sheets don't, let's say, fulfill my planning, marketing planning and orchestration needs. So I wanted to create a software that would be helpful for marketing teams to align it with sales, with executives, to share the most important numbers, etc., and explain marketing activities and campaigns in the easiest way. So last year, I was just, in terms of validating the idea, I was doing a bunch of user tests, so presenting the beta version, then the, let's say, MVP first version, and after collecting lots of feedback, we are almost ready with like final MVP. It will be ready like in 1 week from now, and yeah, so that would be another story. So I didn't take too much of my time because it was only related to, let's say, user test conversations with potential customers and feedback to development team, and let's say 90% of time it was development. But yeah, the things will change slightly this year.
Okay, great. And my next question would be, have you read any recent business books that you'd recommend to our audience?
So as for the business books, my favorite one is 80/20 in Sales Marketing, written by Perry Marshall. I believe it's not only, for marketers or sales. This is something that everybody who is in any kind of business should read. Again, it aligns with 80/20 principle that I shared in the early beginning to help you to identify the best activities, right, the highest possible ROI. So this one. Next one, I think one of the greatest books is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. This is great for marketers, for sales, to understand the sales process, not only from the perspective, I have a target market and I need to spam them all, or generate some opportunities from these customers. It helps you to think about out of the box, how to connect with people, different sorts of campaigns. You can do these non-sales touches. So this one, as from the recent books I read, I can recommend How to Generate Meeting with Everybody by Stu Heinecke. Lots of great examples of direct mail campaigns, not very creative direct mail campaigns that help you to grab attention of decision makers, even from Fortune 500 companies. And the last one, The Key Pillar System by Brian Margolis. This is, I believe, this is fantastic for everybody. It helps you to identify, the key pillars or the key activities that you need to routinely execute every day to hit your sales quota. It's very similar, if you'll go to a gym, like you won't see immediate results, or to a fitness center. But if you'll be going 3 times per week in, let's say, in a 6 month row, you'll see your muscles are growing, you are in a better fit, you have a better body, etc. And the same is here in sales and marketing. You won't see immediate results, from creating a content and, let's say, posting on LinkedIn, something that we have touched today. But doing it like 6 months in a row, you'll see how lots of inbound opportunities are coming, how your target accounts are connected with you, etc. So these are the books I highly recommend to read.
Okay, great. And my next question is, which is the project management tool that you like a lot and you would recommend?
That would be disappointing answer, but still it's Google Sheets. Because the reason why we used lots of software, Asana, ClickUp, Trello, and all of them have pros and cons. But the reason why we finally switched to Google Sheets is just because it's my fault, but it's hard, to get this. Like once you have a bunch of different software, it's hard to have a dedicated software for this one. But for advice team, my team manages everything in Asana, and the reason why is because one of the first hires was a project manager who is in charge of actually orchestrating, managing everything in Asana, and that's fine.
Okay, great. And the last question would be, what is your advice for the future aspiring entrepreneurs or people who are currently into entrepreneurship?
The first thing is that you don't necessarily be an entrepreneur. It's totally fine to do whatever you love to do. And just to give you an idea, when I was living in Poland and Krakow, I was attending a guided tour to, we have a salt, it's called salt minery near Krakow, and that was like an old man who was like probably 65 years old, but he was so passionate, he was sharing the stories, and we were like, this excursion was around 2 hours, but we were just simply following him and listening him for 2 hours. And this is the best example that you don't necessarily, be an entrepreneur. You can do whatever you love, and it's totally fine. So that's the first thing. And the second one, if you want to be an entrepreneur, just start doing something. That's probably it. You'll have lots of pitfalls, but you can. What can I recommend is that you need to just focus on what you love to do. You need to focus on your customers and serve them in the best possible way, and never stop learning. So the more you learn, the more books you read, the more courses you are passing, the more mentorship you are taking, the better your results will be. I can say that my career initially in enterprise and corporates, was so great just because I had great mentors. And later, when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I can say that lots of people who were my mentors helped me a lot. So it wasn't just only my, achievement. So lots of people helped me, and that probably would be the best advice. Try to find these people, try to find these books, courses, and never stop learning.
Okay, thanks a lot for your insights, Andrei.
My pleasure.
And whoever's watching it, actually, I was recently following Andrei's LinkedIn page as well. So there are lots of interesting posts regarding B2B marketing and ABM. So I was going through all the posts. So anyone who is interested in those fields, they can surely follow Andrei. That's it. Thanks a lot, Andrei.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot for great questions. Loved our chat, and hope to chat with you more in future.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.